What's up, folks? This is Acid Roots. Welcome to part 6 of Let's Play Mystic Quest. So we're going to get a little bit further in the winter areas of this game and kind of start getting more forward as far as what we're going to do with these winter sections. So it's going to be fun. I mean, really, there's going to be some puzzle elements, which I suspect are going to be brought also later on in the game, but they're not annoying. I mean, just the only thing about it is just if you keep messing up, if you're not someone who likes trial and error, this type of stuff might piss you off, but it's really not that terrible. I mean, this is pretty much like a classic role-playing game. I think more role-playing games need to be like this. It just has the proper element where it's somewhat of a chore, but it's not like an exhausting all-day kind of chore type thing. And that's just how most of this game kind of goes. This is like this mild amounts of work that just make you have to kind of have some food for thought kind of attitudes. So that's good. I mean, it's definitely the thing about it. This is really underappreciated. I mean, because there's just not many games that have this sort of stuff. I mean, like, you know, the Mario RPG that was also for the Super Nintendo had the jump function also, but it didn't quite have as many. Like, it didn't have like the action sequences. Like, you couldn't really punch. It just was, you know, elements based upon a Mario theme. But this game kind of has, like, you know, just fantasy elements that kind of are puzzle stuff. So it was a good genre. I mean, this could have been a series itself if it had wanted to. But this is kind of like, So, but I've thought about doing other role-playing games. I just don't feel like I have the commitment to be able to do it. And that's really, like a game like Final Fantasy VI, for example. I mean, especially with my 15-minute time limit that I like to have, it would probably take me at least 100 some odd episodes to do it. There's just so much to do in that game, and it came out in '94, so that's kind of, you know, as far as that goes, just to say such an old game could take that long, I just feel like I'd probably be playing that game if I started like today in November of 2021. I'd be playing it until like probably 2023 somewhere, until I was like 34. And I just don't know if I have the commitment to do that. I mean, some people, I've seen streams where people can beat Final Fantasy VI literally in like 4 or 5 2 or 3 hour episodes, but there's no way I would have them. I mean, I know it's supposed to be recreational, but it's really, you know, and I didn't figure myself to have attention span problems, but just to kind of say it, it's really, that's the thing about like that long of streams, is just sitting that long and having to have like the ability to do that sort of thing. I'm just too fidgety an individual, you know. But I did used to watch streams quite a bit back in like 2015 and that sort of stuff. I found some fellows, they don't do it as much. I mean, obviously they've changed in the past 6.5 years, but people like Gameplay and Talk. I mean, he used to go by a name called Austin Mackert, but I watched some of his stuff. He would do like all night streams from like 8 o'clock at night until like 4 in the morning, and those were pretty classic things. I like people who will have that sort of commitment, just because you can basically order pizza, you can go other places, go take care of some errands, and he'll still be there and playing these games, and it'll be pitch black out. And it's especially fun in the summertime just because it's hot. You can go out in your backyard, have a beer, you know, hop on the phone for a little bit, you know, make some plans, that sort of stuff, and come back and he's still playing like Ninja Gaiden or something like that. But yeah, that just kind of happens to be a thing. There's just a lot of otherwise things, but yeah, this dungeon does stump me. And if you get stumped in a dungeon, you do basically have to exit and redo it. So I suspect that there's going to be elements like this later. I'm just going to, if they get too tricky, I'm probably just going to have to watch another playthrough and do it that way. I mean, I want this to be somewhat blind, but, you know, the problem with the blind LP is some of these will wind up being a lot longer. I mean, I at least have some coherent experience with this game, but I really didn't get too much past like the volcanic areas in attempts to getting like the 3rd crystal, so this kind of depends there. So yeah, I thought I could jump across, but no, it was And then the actual thing about it was I also messed up the other crystal. So it was just dumb, you know. I tried. Yeah, so like, nope, sorry, you're doing it again. Better luck next time. How do you feel about when video games tell you that, viewers? I mean, that's something from like older segments back in the 2000s and 90s. If you got game over, it'd be like, better luck next time. You know, that sort of stuff. But this happens to be kind of like a trolling, like the game developers. I mean, I used to get a lot more pissed at video games than I do now. They've learned that it's not that good a function to sit there and troll people like that, but it's just kind of, it is a funny thing. That the old Nintendo games, the NES games, would just tell you game over, and it's just like, that's it. You know, you're basically doing the whole game over. They didn't care. That was just the way it was back in 1986 and 1988. But it's kind of wonders how much that pisses me off. Yeah, I'm kind of sparse on like updates as far as like what to do right now. I mean, it's just been fairly basic. I did go to McDonald's and I did have a pumpkin cream pie. So McDonald's, one thing I like about like November, December, there's a number of things I like that McDonald's does. I'm gonna try a McRib because I haven't really messed with those too much. I'm not a fan of barbecue sauce, but I'm going to mess with the McRib, and I'm going to see how those are, because I know they've been there, but I'm just going to see about it, supposedly. And I typically like their holiday cream pies, but the thing about it is, you know, people are very finicky about them, so this is kind of, you know, it's just one of those situations. But I did get a nice pumpkin cream pie, and that was pretty tasty, so I'm going to mess with that. And last year, for like year 6 of my vlog channel, I got like the strawberry cream pies, and those were pretty good. So, and then before that, it was the holiday cream pies, which basically had sprinkles and custard in there. That was good. But I remember people were like, no, there's not holiday cream pies. Can't you tell it's COVID? You know, I mean, yeah, last year was pretty bad just because there was no COVID vaccine yet, and people were just, it was just like, hey, you couldn't go anywhere, you had to wear a mask everywhere and all that, so, but it's an extra thing. I do frequent McDonald's, viewers, if you wonder. It's definitely a place that I enjoy going. I watched a good Boogie 2988 video where Francis talked about wanting to hit up and get a McRib, and that's kind of what helped inspire that. I was like, you know, why not? Let's fuck with the McRib and see what the hype is about it. But so yeah, this time we're not going to mess up with these ice blocks, but there is a boss fight coming, so just be prepared. Now, I wouldn't have expected such a basic area to have had, like, I wouldn't have expected such a basic area to have had a boss, but I think they really wanted to accentuate, like, the idea. So just understand that even, like, simple areas like this can have some sort of guardian about them. Just kind of happens to be the thing. So, but the next area, you have to get like a special item just to be able to see the enemies. So if you choose to have like a tougher difficulty, you can just get in fight after fight, not even see them coming. Which I wonder if future dungeons are going to do that. I don't really recall, but so. But yeah, I'm just but we are getting ready to get the heal technique, so that's definitely useful. You definitely want to pick up this treasure chest right before the boss. So I do feel like they probably could have put in more enemy types, though. I mean, I feel like, you know, there's plenty, like, those, like, elven things that you saw last episode or the episode before. They probably should have been in this dungeon, just to kind of spruce it up. That's the only thing about role-playing games. I feel like when there's going to be random battles, there should be at least, you know, 5, 6, 7 different types of enemies, so it's just not that monotonous. Because I especially hate encountering, like, enemies that just do the same status techniques that wind up making a 3-minute battle become like a 9 or 10-minute battle. And, you know, because they'll put you to sleep, and then you'll run out of heals, then you'll get confused, and they might poison you, then you might get like the Doom one or stuff like that. I mean, in regular Final Fantasies, they have the Doom status effects, some of those. And then they give you blind and, you know, some of those. So this is kind of... But, I don't know. I really wonder what's happened to role-playing games circa 2020 or 2021. It just feels like relatively awkward almost to kind of wonder about that. Because, like, I've seen, like, Final Fantasy 14 and Final Fantasy 15 and some of those. And, I don't know. I mean... They're just not, the interface is just not as, like, user-friendly as it was back in the 90s. I mean, these games are just simple. Maybe it's just because I'm old-fashioned, but there's just a lot of stuff about, I don't know. It was kind of the thing. And really, I just cannot think of other role-playing games. I mean, the developers, like, you know, you had the Dragon Warrior games, you had, like, games like that, you know, you had Phantasy Star and those type games. There just were a bunch of them, and it just seems like even Final Fantasy is hard to come by anymore. So it's just like the classic role-playing game from like 1990 and 1995 and such. I don't know what to say. I mean, because really, it just felt like, you know, anything past like the Xbox 360, they just didn't have those types of games. It was just like, they just assumed that you liked Halo and Call of Duty. Like, why are you playing Final Fantasy? Go play Halo. You know, go play Call of Duty. Go shoot something. You know, that type of stuff. So it changed. But this was the type of game that was popular depending upon the type of friends you had back in the 90s and such. It was, I mean, really, I can watch role-playing games with friends. I mean, even if they're one-player games, these are easy enough games to watch as long as there's, like, other entertainment. If you have, like, wrestling DVDs on and some pizza on your, you know, on the table out in the living room, and like some good music playing, and just like it, you know, just that sort of stuff, just accommodating extra factors as far as things go on, you know, women there, you know, that sort of stuff. It's not that much of like a problem to play an RPG all night. I just feel like some people, in some cases, I feel like Final Fantasy kind of gets like a bad rep or something because people associate it with, like, you know, like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dungeons and Dragons type stuff, like, you know, the big Star Trek, pants pulled up all high type geek, you know. And it's like, Final Fantasy has a lot more credibility than that. I mean, if you're one of the ones that thinks that way, that Final Fantasy is for twerps, just change that right now, because, nah. You know, especially games like Final Fantasy 7 and 8, those are some of the slicker ones. I mean, like, the guy that's getting ready to play Batman, the guy that played, like, the character off of Twilight, Robert Pattinson, he said that he was brought to tears from playing Final Fantasy 7. I mean, I know by this, I mean, 24 years later, if you don't know that Aerith dies, I mean, she dies, but he said that that brought him to tears. I don't think he was sitting there bawling like a 2-year-old, but probably gave him some sort of like, hey, that kind of sucks, that was awful. And that's the thing, I mean, video games need that. It just makes me wonder if Final Fantasy 8 did that. But yeah, these are games that kind of have those sorts of things, so. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like you can drink beer and play Final Fantasy. It's no big deal. You can have had more than 8 or 10 girlfriends and play this type of game, so. But it's kind of one of those things, so. So yeah, I don't think we're going to beat the boss in this episode. We're kind of running out of time here, and I think the boss actually does beat me in the next episode, so we got to prepare for that, but alright, so subscribe for more fun. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night. I'm kind of spacing this out, and I will see you in part 7.